So pay attention when you're doing your initial wiring. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to get them backwards, and your steering will be reversed. So you can easily flip that in software, or you can tell your wiring guys to fix it in wiring. Okay? Either way, it's up to you, just as long as this matches the reality. So I haven't changed any code yet. Right? I'm going to run this in a second, and we're going to see arcade drive with one joystick on those two motors. That's with the provided code with 0 modifications. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click Run now. Okay, we're done. It's alive. You want to check, make sure that your dongle switch is set to enabled, and then okay, so everyone sees that with this default code, you put this on your robot, you basically take the new control system, replace your last year's control system, hook everything up, run this code, you can drive it around. Okay, so everyone sees that with this default code, you put this on your robot, you basically take the new control system, replace your last year's control system, hook everything up, run this code, you can drive it around the cafeteria. And run it into walls, do all kinds of crazy stuff. All right? So that's with 0 modification. So I want to talk now a little bit about this framework, understanding it, what we see here, and a little bit about how to change it. A couple people have already asked, how do I connect a servo, which I want to do quickly. And another good thing is, how do I change it to tank drive? Some people prefer to have 2 joysticks, where one chooses one side, and one actuates one side and one actuates the other. So I'm going to do that modification, or maybe I'll just start it and let you finish it as part of an exercise. Before I go on, are there any questions about what you see here? Okay, great. So before I can make any modifications, I'm going to stop it. The default framework doesn't have a stop button like we did on our joystick examples. You just have to do a hard stop by clicking that abort button in the toolbar up at the top. So why don't I do some programming while you tell me what to do? So what I want to do is I want to change this so that instead of an arcade drive, we're going to do a tank drive using 2 joysticks. Okay? So I'm going to sit. Someone tell me what to do first.
Delete the arcade drive block.
Delete the arcade drive block. All right.
Control B.
Control B. Ah, that was really good. Someone just said use Control B. Does anyone know what Control B is for? Remove broken wires. I'm going to warn you that Control B is not really your friend. Okay? Control B is nice sometimes, but every now and then if you delete something, let me give you an example, and I'm going to have my undo key ready. If I delete this wire, and then I do Control B, a lot of stuff just went away. And actually stuff in these other cases went away. So I would say use Control B very sparingly. Okay? And then be happy to use undo a lot. And I'm going to go back to this other case. So we're in the telop execute, so we've deleted our arcade drive. What do I need to do next? Remember, I want 2 joysticks to do a tank drive.
Get the tank drive.
You make on USB 2.
Okay, make USB 2. So I'm going to take my joystick, joystick open, and make a duplicate of that. Anyone remember the shortcut for duplicating? Control drag. Okay, you guys are definitely on it. And I'm going to click on this to change it to be USB 2. All right, so now I've got this. So what do I need to do next?
Wire.
Connect it to what?
Get access.
Okay, so I've got these 2 guys, and what they were doing before was giving me my x-axis and my y-axis out of one joystick.
Get access.
What do you think I should do to reconnect? Anybody have a suggestion? I'll give you a hint. I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to delete. I'm going to take this and basically take axis 1 out of each joystick, right? Where before we had axis 1 and axis 2 from one joystick, now we're going to only take one axis but one out of each. So this guy is opening USB 2. So there's a wire which is connected directly into this one. So this second block is going to give me my second joystick. So next I need the tank drive. So can someone tell me how to navigate to get the tank drive?
Right click.
Okay, we start with a right click, which is going to bring up our functions palette. This is where we go to get stuff. Stuff can be functions, stuff can be sub-VIs. stuff can be things like comparisons, equals, plus, minus. Under here we have something called the WPI Robotics Library. That's where all the chunks of code that we need to program our robot are sitting. So you see it's broken into several subpalettes. So what do you think we need to go next?
Robot drive.
Robot drive. And lo and behold, there's something here called tank drive. Right, so say I don't know what tank drive means. I just did the Control-H shortcut. Do you remember what that's for? The context help. And so that pops up and it tells us, even while we're sitting in the palette, what the thing we're hovering over is going to do. So you see what tank drive is. It tells us a little bit. It allows us to choose the axis from either joystick and so on and so forth. So we're going to pick that one. And also we've got 3 inputs to this. 4 really. There's an error in and an error out. But let's just ignore the error for now. So what do I have to connect first?
Whichever one you want.
Anything?
Whichever one you want. Okay, well let's start with this top one. What do you think the top one means? Robot drive dev ref. That's kind of a weird word. What it means is device
Sequence.
reference. Whenever we are talking to something, remember it's usually a 3-step process. Open, read or write, and then close. So what open does is it creates that reference for us. So we're going to connect that to here. Okay. Next, we're going to take that left value. Where are we going to get that from?
This is one.
And then we're going to take the right value and get it from here. And you see I've got a bit of a broken wire. That's because my wiring skills are not 100%. And if you sometimes miss when you're clicking, you get a little spare wire. So you can click on it to remove it, and then just push delete. Or now, if you're really sure that you don't have any other broken wires, you can do Control B. Right? So be very careful with Control B. Sometimes it's really helpful. Sometimes it's very destructive. Okay? So did I miss anything? Everybody's watching carefully. This should probably work. Should we try it?
Oh, close
Don't
the
we have to
joystick.
close the drive?
Ah, thank you. Glad somebody else was paying attention. So we need to do a second drive close. Because we opened it, well, not drive close, but joystick close. But because we opened this joystick, we duplicated what we had before. We need to duplicate the whole thing. So I'm going to just make a little bit more room by pulling down the bottom of this while loop, and then making a control drag to duplicate that, and just hook it up. So now when the while loop is done, it should close the joystick. So now, let's run it and see what happens. Oh, it's going to prompt you to save, so we'll save it. Okay. So now I've got joystick 1. There we go. Okay, so axis 1 is this direction. Good to know. So it's kind of sideways tank drive. So this guy's moving the right motor. This guy's moving the left motor. And if I choose the opposite direction, it turns the other way. Okay, so has everyone understood what we just did? We took the framework that was given, we modified it to use 2 joysticks, and we modified it from arcade drive to tank drive. Now, how long did that take us? Maybe 10 minutes? Okay. So this is very typical of the way I expect a lot of teams are going to do their programming for this. They're going to take the framework, they're going to make these kind of tweaks, changes, add another joystick, add another motor control, maybe take something from one of those examples, copy it, paste it into the framework, and then go. Okay, yes sir?
What if we're not running on tank drive? What kind of code can we delete?
What kind of code? So the question is, what can we delete
Yeah.
if we're not using tank drive? That's a really good question. I mean, if you're using arcade drive, you can use it leave it the way it was. The default code as it was. If you're not using it, you should delete it. So if you're not using arcade drive, you should get rid of it and put in what you are using. It's up to you. You've got complete control of what signals you send to which motor controllers. Right? You can use the tank drive one, which assumes 2 joysticks or 2 signal values. You can use the arcade drive one, which assumes, again, 2 signals but from 1 joystick. Or you can directly control the speed of a motor directly, as opposed to using one of these higher level VIs, which is going to allow you to do tank drive or arcade drive. So it's up to you. Let me give you an example. Our team, we wanted to get our basics of our functional mechanism working. and we had a couple motors which basically lifted an elevator. And those motors, we didn't have another Y cable, so we wanted to control those two motors at the same time.